week. Last week I went a bit off based on questions that I'd gotten from you within the week. And so this week now I'm going back to what your husband expects from you in marriage, what he expects. Because I talked the other week about a wife's expectations, that when she signs up for the marriage, what does she expect her husband to do? I spoke about that a few weeks ago. And today now I'm talking about what a husband expects. Now, someone once asked me a question about expectation and said that, Victor, don't expectations put pressure? Don't expectations, don't they create tension? But I said no. Expectations actually make someone aware what they are signing up to. Because if you are buying a car, if you're buying a house, whatever it is you're involving yourself in, you always have a particular level of expectation to know exactly what is expected of you, or to know, am I able to do it? Can I be able to do it? Because some people are married to people who never were not able to fulfill the expectations you had because they were silent. And when you revealed them over time, they were unable to fulfill them. And it's important because in marriage, at some point, the expectations, silent or not, are always spoken. At some point, they come out. And especially if you did not know especially if you did not know about the expectation earlier on, and now it finds you within the marriage, or you never communicated, then you bring it up because now you're frustrated. Always, my dear friends, it always leads to a bit of, not a bit actually, a lot of chaos. Because you begin to have comments, and at times these expectations, if they're not met, people begin to have comments. You hear comments like, the neighbor's wife normally does for him this, or the neighbor's husband normally does this, or my mom used to do this, or my dad used to always do things in the house. My father never went to the kitchen. My mom always cooked. People begin to mention those things, and those comments are very hurtful because there's a comparison to it. And I said one of the worst things in a marriage is to compare. So these kinds of comments, dear listener, always create hurting feelings because we have an expectation. You did not marry someone because there was no expectation. There was one expectation or two. So they're talking about what a husband expects from his wife. Number one thing that a husband expects from his wife when he's getting married, my dear friends, this is in no particular order. Number one, he expects companionship. He expects companionship. He wants you to be first his friend before anything else. He wants to have fun with you. He wants to create memories with you. He doesn't want you to treat him like you're his mother. That is something that is very important. He doesn't want to be like you're his mom. He just wants to be your friend. And this is a very critical expectation for many men. And I always say this more often than not, that in most marriages, most wives normally forget that friendship is the reason why he is with you. And I've said this before. I met a couple a few weeks ago, I was doing a particular show somewhere, and this man said that I was so in love with my wife, but we fought so much in the first years. And when you asked him why they fought, he said, we were not friends. We were not friends. And it's possible for you to be in love. It's possible for you to have 7 children together and have a joint bank account and have t-shirts that match, that say my wife, my husband. But in reality, if you're not friends, if there's no companionship, then that drifts away. A man always expects that the expectation he has in the marriage primarily is that he's marrying his friend. And he expects that she will continue to be his best friend, that they will have fun together, they will have adventures together, they will explore things together, they will have good times together. And he expects that in this companionship, being treated as a friend, she won't treat him as though she is his mother. And I hope women understand this very well, that he doesn't want to be treated as though he's your son. No, he wants just to be your friend. That's expectation number one. And I emphasize on friendship because, again, I've seen so many marriages break because of this, because of absence of friendship. And I've seen at times, I've seen so many times, ladies making this mistake and saying that, but I am his wife. And I've always said that to a man, friendship is number one. Friendship always comes first. A man will do anything for his friend. If the wife is his best friend, then she'll have the best marriage. And if you look at the people who have the best marriages, or if you look for a woman who's enjoying her marriage, she will tell you something. She will tell you that me and my husband are best of friends. So friendship, my dear friends, is king. Number two, he expects respect. There is no other language on the planet that a man understands but the language called respect. a man's need for respect is so deep, It is so deep. And it's funny how many times it's normally skipped, but it's so deep. Because research has actually found that most men would rather feel respected by their wives than feel loved. I want you to note that. Research has actually found that most men would rather feel respected by their wives than feel loved. And part of showing him respect is to affirm him, to believe in him, to make him feel as though he can take on the world, to make him feel like he can do anything. It is possible that he can do, He doesn't want to be interrogated or to be insulted. I have never understood this thing. And I see it with couples in my office every other week, where discussions turn into interrogations. And there are many people in marriages are being interrogated about even romance. About romance, You want your husband to be a bit more romantic, but you're interrogating him towards romance. And it becomes a whole, he has to defend himself, all these things. And I've heard many women saying that my husband is too defensive. My husband is too defensive. I've heard that so many times in counseling rooms, But the truth of the matter I always ask is that, is it because you are offensive? Because defense can't work in a vacuum. Defense is always a reaction. It is not an action. Defense is always a reaction. In a relationship, defense is always a reaction. A reaction either to an assumption that you will attack, or from the reality that you're attacking. But whenever you find your child is being defensive, your spouse is being defensive, stop. Don't call them defensive. No. Remember that defense does not work as in a vacuum. No human being defends themselves on nothing. They are always feeling threatened, so it is a reaction. But it is important, dear wives, to understand that your husband expects to be respected. And there you'll hear sentences and statements like, who is the man of the house? You hear statements like, am I not this? You begin to find you're fighting and you're having tough wars, I had a gentleman in my office this week. He said something very simple but so profound. He said, Victor, in my house, we never had, a traditional dining table. We always had a round table. And I asked him why. He said, because my wife worked so hard throughout to ensure that, throughout the marriage, that I do not take my place as the head of the house. Now, does that necessarily mean that being the head of the house, my dear friends, is that he's a dictator or what? No, that's a different discussion for another day. I'm just talking about respect. Some of you might be saying, oh, head of the house, times have changed. It's a different argument we'll have when we start answering questions. But the reality is that you cannot underline that he expects to be respected. And a man will always move towards where he's being respected. Always he will move towards the woman who's respecting him. So no matter how much you do for your husband, no matter how much you sacrifice for him, no matter what you do, if he does not feel respected, he's likely to walk away because of lack of respect. And if there's one thing that men leave their marriages for, men leave their marriages for other women who respect them more than their wives. And I'll say this, dear listener, and I hope we have this conversation after I finish, is that do not assume that also that you are showing him respect. You might be doing something that is opposite, and you think you're showing him some respect. I'll give you a simple example. I have given this example every single time. I've always said that if at all a man has no money, if he's broke, he's lost his job, has no money, and his wife buys him a shoe worth 10,000 bob, to a man that is disrespect. Now, if a man buys his wife a shoe worth 10,000 shillings when she has no job, that does not speak disrespect. That communicates affection, that communicates care, that communicates love. It is a positive thing. When a wife does not have, and the husband buys her an expensive watch, he's communicating love to her. But when a man has no job and the wife buys him a watch, an expensive watch, it's communicating disrespect. It's good to get this balance. It is because we are fundamentally different from the core. I'm not saying this to defend bad manners. I'm just saying that we are different from the core. Number 3, he expects sex. Your husband expects sex. It's the one thing that many people get surprised in marriage. And I've always said this before, it's very strange that unmarried couples tend to have more sex than married couples. It's a strange thing. We have not found the research around it yet. But your husband is most likely, dear listener, to have a physical desire for frequent sex. But sex is just not the physical part of it for him. You have to remember that that is the point that maybe he's feeling, because to a man, sex is different to what sex is to a woman. And to your husband, sex, of course, means a couple of things. One, of course, there is connection, all those things. But most importantly, is how it makes him feel about you. And I say this because every man feels rejected by his wife when she denies him advances, when he's making advances, when he's trying to make a move, or he's trying to initiate sex and the wife rejects him. Many men feel rejected after this. When he wants to touch you and you tell him tomorrow or something in a very strange tone, because he got married expecting to have sex. He didn't get married thinking that he will not have sex. Of course, there's a discussion about, if you listen to my reflection about what a woman needs, you'll get the balance of these two things. Those who are joining us today and listening today for the first time. But there's a balance to it. If you listen to what the woman expects and what the man expects, if you read them both together, you're likely to get the context of what I am saying. But he feels rejected by you when you deny his advances, or when you never seem to initiate sex. And I've asked very many women in my office very many times, when is the last time as a wife you initiated sex in your marriage? Is it before the coup attempt in 1982? When is the last time? Make your sex life a priority. Because to your husband, that is encouraging, and it'll help him grow closer to you. It'll help him be more drawn to you. I've always said that sex is not the most important thing required to make a marriage work. Sex is not the most important thing required to make a marriage work. But it is impossible to make a good marriage work without it. Note that. Number 4, he expects domestic support. This is where the riot normally begins. He expects domestic support. Men definitely, and I insist, men definitely should do their part at home and with their kids in an equal way. But most men want their wives to take the lead in making the house a home. And I've said this many times. He wants you to manage the home. You shouldn't feel the pressure to have to constantly clean or all those things if you're a wife. No. But he expects you to take the lead in those things. He expects you to have figured out some things. When he's coming into the marriage, he's expecting domestic support. That's an expectation. How you'll work out the roles is different, but that is an expectation. You cannot wish it away. He expects you to take the lead. He doesn't expect it is him who's coming and saying, okay, now what color of curtains do we put? What carpet do we put? Where is the sugar? Where is this? He expects you to take the lead in that. He's expecting, that's an expectation. Number 5, my dear friends, he expects loyalty. If there's something all men crave for in their marriages is loyalty. He expects loyalty. And loyalty means this. He wants to know you are in his side no matter what. And this is a huge expectation to any husband, because it's what his marriage in his mind is built on. It is loyalty. Whenever you threaten divorce, whenever you look for opportunity to escape, whenever you throw him under the bus, whenever you embarrass him in public, whenever you show his weaknesses, or you hit on his weaknesses, or you expose his weaknesses, whenever you try to show you're the better parent, whenever you try to show that you're the better person than he is, whenever he makes a mistake and you abandon him and you point a finger at him, he expects you to be loyal. When a man is marrying his wife, he expects her to be ride or die, meaning we ride together, we die together. He expects you to stay with him on his corner no matter what. And to many men it hurts. I have a man in my office who came and he was so heartbroken because at the point when his business went down, that's when his wife left. And this man has never recovered, because he had an expectation of loyalty. And the problem is that nowadays, loyalty is difficult in marriages. It's very difficult because every time we are throwing our spouses under the bus, that is an expectation, dear listener. You're talking about what a man expects in marriage. What a man expects in marriage. I've mentioned only 5 things he expects in marriage. And let us talk about this. And any other question you have, I'm here to answer your questions and to respond to your comments. My name is Victor Salamba. You're on 88.3